All right, we're going to keep going. And who knew it just split the video up itself? So it started one. There was like a 20-second video all on its own. Who knew? We do now, right? Okay, so keeping going, we were saying that 5/12 was larger than 1/3. Okay? I'm going to show you how to figure that out if you didn't have fraction strips. All right, so we've already figured it out using those. But you have to be able to find a way to do it when it just looks like this. Okay, and this is what we've talked about just a tiny bit. You're going to make equivalent fractions. So that means your denominators have to be the same. So you have to find the lowest common multiple. Now, multiples come out of a number. It means that the number you're using is a factor to the other numbers. So you're just counting by. So I always start with the smallest one. Okay? We're going to start with the smallest one, then I'm going to show you a trick. Count by threes, and we're going to write them right here. Ready? 3. I know you already have that. That's okay. Count by threes. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Stop there. Make sure you're putting a comma in between so it doesn't look like you have some huge long number. All right? Now, what you do is you say, okay, here's 12. What's the smallest number that they both have in common? Okay, so if we were counting by 12s, we'd say 12, 24, 36, right? What's a number they both have in common? 12. So that's the lowest common multiple, okay? So that means both fractions are going to have the denominator of 12. We're going to do that in just a second. The shortcut, I just wanted to show you that first. The shortcut is, look at your two denominators. If you can get to the larger denominator using this one as a factor, then you found it. So if 3 goes into 12, then 12 is going to be the denominator we're going to use. It's the lowest common factor. All right, so right down here, I want you to write 5/12 again. And now you're going to use 1/3 equals, we need it to have a denominator of 12. So now do what you know about equivalent fractions that we've done. 3 and 12, how are they related? 3 times something is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. It's the same thing. So multiply both the top and the bottom, the numerator and denominator, by 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. Now we're comparing 5/12 and 4/12. Well, that's easy. They're the exact same denominator, the same size piece. Which one's larger, 5 or 4? 5. That's our greater than. All right? Okay, let's try another one. So I have to erase mine. Don't you erase. You're going to go down further. All right? We're going to try 2/3 and 7/9. Okay? So I want you to first use your fraction strips. So it doesn't really matter whether you use thirds or ninths, I guess. I see my ninths. So I'm going to start right up here next to the thirds. I'm going to find where 2/3 is. 1, 2. It ends on this line here. Okay? And I can see when I line them up, there's something that equals 2/3. See how those two lines line up? Let's count them and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/9 equals 2/3. Okay, but we have to go to 7. So there's 6, 7. Here's 7/9. What's larger, 7/9 or 2/3? 7/9. Write that symbol in there to make yours equal. So this is 2/3 is less than 7/9. Good. Well, in order to figure it out now, if you didn't have those, you have to find a denominator that both of these can make. These have to both be factors in them. So ask yourself first, can 3 go into 9? Can I multiply something by 3 to get to 9? Yes. If I can, then that's my denominator. So let's make it down here. We know 2/3 equals, we have to make an equivalent fraction. How many ninths? Okay, I might have made that large. We have to multiply it by something. Okay, 3 times what is 9? Say it out loud. And 9 divided by 3 is, same number, 3. Multiply the top and the bottom by that. 2 times 3 is 6. And 3 times 3 is 9. This is our new fraction. 6 ninths and 7 ninths. Which one's larger? Still 7 ninths. Read it. 6 ninths is less than 7 ninths, which means 2/3 is less than 7 ninths, because 2/3 and 6 ninths are equal, equivalent. They are the exact same. Good. All right, I'm going to give you one. I want you to do it totally on your own, and then you'll check back with the video. All right, so I want you to write 2/5 and 4/10. Write that down. I want you to check it first with your fraction strips and put the correct symbol in here, greater than, less than, or equal to. And then I want you to make these have the same denominator. So that means that you have to make equivalent fractions. Figure out what's the smallest number they both can make. They can each be a factor in. Make that equivalent fraction and then check that, yes, your symbol was correct. Do that and then check back. All right, let's check it. 2/5 equals 4/10. When you go to make equivalent fractions, you know, hey, 5 can make 10. So that's going to be your new denominator. And you know 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 5 times 2 is 10, 2 times 2 is 4, and 4/10 equals 4/10. You should have seen that on your fraction strips. All right, I'm going to give you 2 more. These ones are a little bit harder. All right, so you should be able to at least use your fraction strips to decide which one is larger and which one is smaller, or if they're equal to each other. And then you're going to try to find a common denominator. Now, I purposely made these ones a little bit harder because these denominators, the smaller one cannot make the larger one. It's easier if they can. Okay, but I want you to use your fraction strips because you can at least answer it with your fraction strips. And then we'll look at how do we make that common denominator, even when it's hard. All right, so write these down, 3/8 and 3/6, and 4/5 and 6/7, and then check back and see how you did. All right, using your fraction strips, did you find that 3/6 is larger than 3/8? And that 6/7 is larger than 4/5? Read them to me. 3/8 is less than 3/6. 4/5 is less than 6/7. All right, so everybody should have been able to at least get that far. And we'll go over together finding a common multiple, something that each of them can make. Okay, so if you didn't get that part, don't even worry about that. We'll work on that as the days go on. That's not really a big deal. I just wanted to show you one that wasn't quite so easy, like 3 and 9, 2 and 4, 5 and 10. Those are easy to figure out. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to think of counting by these numbers. Now, if you had your multiplication chart filled in, it would be really easy to figure that out, to see what, that's not true. Well, it might be, to see what multiples they have in common. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the 6s and the 8s. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you. If you didn't have one, you would be writing them down on the side. I'm going to show you how you can use the multiplication chart. Okay, if you had your multiplication chart, there are some times where this won't work if they're too large of numbers, all right? But it at least give you some of the multiples, all right? So if 6 and 8, if I had my multiplication chart already filled out, all I have to do is look and say, hey, what's the smallest number that they both have? Do they both have 6? No. Do they both have 12? 18? What is it? 24. They both have 24. Okay? So we know that they both are going to have equivalent fractions, that the denominator is 24. So what I want you to do, you can write them side by side if you want, or you could write new ones. I think we'll write them side by side and then we'll move them over in just a minute. So 24, write that as your denominator. And then we have to think, well, what do we multiply each of them by? Well, if you had to write them all out, you'd have to count your multiples. I already have them out, so I can count. I can either count over 1, 2, 3, 4, or I can just look up. Hey, 6 times something is 24. 24 divided by 6 is 4. So I know on the 6, we're going to multiply by 4s. 6 times 4 is 24. 3 times 4 is 12. My new fraction is 12 24s. Okay, do it on the 8s. I can count 1, 2, 3, or I can say 24 divided by 8, go up to the other number, 3. They multiplied 8 times 3 to get to 24. Okay, do that on the top. 3 times 3 is 9. So now my new fractions are 9 24ths and 12 24ths. I just made them into equivalent fractions with the same denominator. Obviously, which one's larger, 9 or 12? 12. And that's what I had here. All right, let's try on the 5s and the 7s. I'm going to use my multiplication chart again. 5s are a little bit easier because you could count by the other number, and as soon as you end, you say what their multiple is, or you're counting by it, and the number ends at a 0 or a 5, you know you found something that 5 goes into. All right, but we're going to look at my multiplication chart. Okay, erase the other one so you can see, but remember when you're using a multiplication chart, everything will be filled in. But if that gets overwhelming, use scratch paper. I could use scratch paper to cover up this row and the rows above and below. Okay, so if I'm counting by 7s, I know that I have to find a multiple. That means a number that 5 can make and a number 7 can make. I can go across and look. What's the first number that ends in 0 or 5? 35. And we know we're going to find that on the 5s. Okay, so that's going to be the new denominator. So if you haven't already done this, write that denominator next to it. We're making equivalent fractions. So what do we multiply 5 by to get to 35? Look at my number right here. 5 times what? 35? Go up. 7. I multiplied by 7 to get to 35. 5 times 7 is 35. 4 times 7, if your multiplication chart was filled in, you could find it real quick, that it's 28. Okay, and then what about this one? If 5 times 7 is 35, what times 7 is 35? 5. We already know that. If you're unsure, look on your multiplication chart. So 6 times 5 is 30. Now, because I have a big mess here, I either have to scribble out all of this to see my fractions, or I have to rewrite them. 28 35ths and 30 35ths. Now that they have the same denominator, it's easy to see which one's larger, 28 or 30? 30. 28/35 is less than 30/35, which means 4/5, can't see it very well because I had to cross it out, is less than 6/7. Okay, you should have been able to see that with your fraction strips, but there's other ways to figure it out as well. We're going to keep working on that, not so much on the comparing, we'll be looking at them, but you're going to use some of those concepts to help you as we go into adding and subtracting fractions. So there's no assignment with this one other than working on Zearn. And if you know that this was difficult or you need a little more help, then get one of the extra pages that just has some fractions, or make fractions up with a friend. Like randomly pick two strips. I picked the 5s and the 7s. Those are what I had. And make fractions out of them. 3/7 and 4/5. Well, I'm going to hold it up and decide. Here's 3/7. Here's 4/5. Which one is larger? 4/5. Practice that. If making the equivalent fractions and figuring out the exact same denominator made you go, I can't do that, practice with the strips. That's what you can start with. Because once your brain can figure out this part, the next step will be easy. And one day you'll be like, why did I freak out about that? That was easy. I got it. All right, so go practice and be great with it. I'm moving everyone up in Zearn, so you should be able to do lessons 12, 13, and 14, I believe. I'm trying to find it. Oh, all the way to 15. You won't get all of those done in one day, but those are the ones that'll practice this.